connect with like-minded AHK users in our private chat, helping each other out and sparking ideas that make scripting way more fun. Witness how club members crush real AHK projects. It's eye-opening proof that our community sparks creativity and success. So when actually Scott mentioned a question, um, he said, "Is there a simple way to move everything from monitor 1 and 2 to monitor 4 and 5?" Shortcut from now, just to clarify, Scott, because I asked you, like, are you have a sit and stand desk situation? Are you saying that those are the same computer, but you have different monitors? Is that, or are they different
Yeah,
computers?
yeah, it's the same computer,
Okay.
and I just when I sorry, monitor 4 and 5 are above monitor 1 and 2, and I'd like to just switch all the
Mhm.
controls and everything, and just move like monitor 1 to monitor 3 and 3 to 1, and switch them up that way whenever I stand up because it's easier to find everything if it's in those spots.
Sure. No.
Um,
Yeah. I mean,
I didn't know if there's a simple way to do that. I feel like there should be a simple way,
well,
but I'm not
here-
aware of it. Is what I
here's
feel
the
like.
thing. And actually, I don't know, as if you know, I know you can choose whether you mirror that the monitor is a mirror versus an
Yes.
extension, right? I don't know if you
Yes.
do that more than one. Can you do that and say I want to? Because what I would do, let's say you have 1, 2, 3, 4 in a grid, right? I would have one mirror 3. So you
Uh-huh.
lose 2 monitors, but they're mirrored, so you never have to worry about it.
Mhm.
It's really the same monitor. Would that annoy you though, Scott, or is that okay?
Well, yeah, that probably wouldn't work because I use all four
Okay.
monitors.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
No worries. Yeah.
yeah,
Sure.
um,
I totally get it. Yeah. Um,
yeah,
but I have a tool called toggle between monitors, and it throws the program to the other monitor. So I mean, we have the infrastructure, let's put it that way, right? To where we could build something that would make it pretty easy to move certain programs. Um,
I thought about setting up like different profiles so that I could just
uh-huh.
switch profiles and it would do probably 90% of it when I did that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah. That's a good idea as well. I know Azalea
Um,
is the
I'm
desktop stuff, right?
yeah,
Um,
right. I'm still thinking if there's any way. I haven't heard of any way of doing that, by the way. So
yeah.
it's just like you can set what your primary monitor is, but you
yeah,
cannot change the numbers of or but you know what? You can change the locations of the monitors, like the
yeah. I know you can
virtual
move them around.
locations. Yeah, but that would be very tricky
Yeah.
unless well,
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's why
But
I was thinking
besides,
that like, I had landed
yeah,
on the best way would probably be to make a second profile and just switch to the
yeah.
other profile when I'm doing the other one. And but that's also not necessarily the best because then it's a lot of work to do that and get it set up, but then it'd probably work pretty well. But I
I
was
bet.
thinking maybe one of you guys knew some good little trick, So
That's a good one. Yeah, no, I was still thinking about it. Like here, if for anybody wondering, by the way, so one of the things that you can do is just move these around. That's something that you can do. Now, that will mess with your mouse. So if I try to go to that, so that monitor physically is on my right side. I just made it on my left side. And then if I'm on monitor 1 and I'm trying to move the mouse to the right, it's
But
not gonna go to the monitor. If I want to go to the other monitor, I have to move the mouse to the left. So moving the locations, okay, that makes sense. But the numbering, what your monitor 2 is, what your monitor 1 is, I
oh
don't
yeah.
think we can change that. I've
No.
never seen that. And you can make one thing. So for example, I can make number 2, I can make it 1, and it would flip 1 and 2 on my case. But when you have 4 monitors, you can switch what number 1 is, but you cannot switch what number 2 is. So you cannot really say, okay, I want this monitor to be number 3 or something.
yeah, and so
Um,
I'm not really wanting to switch the designation of the monitors. I'm just wanting to move everything that's on monitor 1 to monitor 3 when I'm standing up. You know.
Let me think this through. Hold on, because um, and you're talking about profiles like this at the bottom. Is that something else that you might want to play with?
Um,
Because
uh,
this I think you can do this. You can actually select stuff and move to a different desktop. So if I have desktop 2 right here and desktop 3,
yeah,
which for example I had one for certain type of um say for example, I want one for gaming or one for just working with video stuff. I could right click on one of my windows and say move it to the desktop number 2, and it just goes there, right? And
Yeah,
now
I can.
I kept them separate. It's very easy to create, right? But
Yeah.
and now when you are gone, you said I don't want to work here anymore. You can close it, and all the windows go back to the main one. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. But I don't
So
think
that
that'll
one.
really. It's not so much the programs. I mean, those are easy enough to move from one monitor to the other with a shortcut or what have you. I'm like all the desktop icons and where all the navigation stuff is and all that. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
when you're standing up, that's all down, like most of that's on my 1 and 2 monitor. Um, and so I would like to just move them to 3 and 5 or 4 and 5 whenever
Yeah,
I stand up. And like I said, I think
that's a great little question.
What
The
about
one
just
thing
having copies of them?
I was just gonna probably say try with PowerToys. They have this tool for Magic. What is it called? It's something that has to do with Magic Grid or something. It has to do with putting programs in a specific sort of grid. So you can save the location of the programs. And basically what I mean by that is, okay, you can save the location of this
Oh,
program on this monitor.
and
And then later on, you can just hit a button and they just go there. I don't know.
remember the
Yeah.
tool we built for AJ, I think, for remembering where things are located?
Oh, by the way, yes, we did that.
So we could do
That's
something
another.
like that also, right? We could
Sure.
2 different versions of it, and he hits a button and it applies the other locations.
That's a great idea. And actually not as hard as it sounds like. We could just get a list of all the windows that are in your computer at the moment
yeah.
and get the locations or save them into one spot and save it into a file. And later on, put it in a different spot and save those other spots and switch between the spots with a hotkey. When I hit F1, I just move all the windows to the first spot. And when I hit F2, it moves all the windows to the second spot. And I could probably create kind of like a little bit of a simple idea of how to do that. I guess it's not hard.
Yeah, that sounds like that might actually work. Or at
Okay.
least
So
get a good partial way there anyways.
okay, so let's do this. Let's see if there are any other questions before I kind of like work with that, because it is a very simple. Let me think about the example of how to create it, right?
Yeah.
And if nobody else has any other questions, then I can start with that, right? That's a very interesting question.
Yeah, I'd like that tool too.
Yeah. Okay. Guys, okay. Let's start with that. So let me first of all, let me do this. Let's pick a let me share both my screens, I think. I guess you can see both of my screens right now. Can you see this? Can you guys see both of my screens?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So we're gonna do this. I'm gonna create a little let me see. What? Come on. Oh, okay. What did I do with that? Okay. Oh, prompt assistant is not working either. That's why I'm feeling so weird. Like, what? Things are not working. Once you get used to it, like, come on. All right. Yeah, there we go. So basically what we're going to do is this. We're going to create a little bit of a script. Instead of grabbing every single one of the current active windows, let's do this in a different way. Let's create a window. Let's have a script that has a window, main. GUI. We're going to go ahead and main.show and have it show a window, and that's it. All right. So this is what I want. This is my window. Let's add a title to it. And the title is going to be, I don't know, my tool, whatever. That's the tool. Now, on a script, we can have a saving hotkey, okay? And basically, it could be any hotkey. You can have the hotkey, whatever you want. One of the things that you can do is win get list, okay? And that would give you a list of all the HWNDs in your computer. And you can use a for loop, for handle in the list of windows that is in my computer. We could do something with it. And if win get title, let's say, okay. If the title is not something that I'm looking for, right? My tool, then just continue, right? And then that's the way how you would do it, all right? So you can get a list of the windows on your computer, get all the handles, get the title of each handle, and if the handle matches or the title matches the window that you're looking for, then you're gonna work on it. If not, if it doesn't match, right? So this would be negative. Oh, what happened there? Oh. If this doesn't match the title that I'm looking for, then I will continue, okay? So I will ignore it. That's basically what we're gonna do. Once we get the correct window, the correct handle, now we can get the position of that window. We can get position, right? And we're gonna have the X, the Y, the width, and the height of that handle, just like that. That will give me the current position of it, and then I can just save that in either an INI file, so I could say ini write X on window positions.ini. I don't know, whatever you want. The name of the window, and then the key is going to be the X value, right? And then I can do the same for the Y, and I could do width and height, basically. That's basically what you will do. Is just copy the current position of the window and save it somewhere, basically. And that's one of the positions. You can have a section or a key when you write it down. So, for example, because we want two different spots, we want monitor 1, right? So let's say this is monitor 1 instead of that. So monitor 1 INI, right? And also, when you hit the other hotkey, you would do exactly the same, but it would save it on monitor 2. That's the hotkey that you will press when you want to save it on monitor 2. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Does when get position return what monitor a program's on?
No, it does not. That is one. So that is one of the things that I was telling Joe about. Like, we do have a function. We were working on that function on a tool a while back that we could determine which monitor your mouse is in, and also, you know what? I think they activate. What was it? The set
DPI?
Windows screen DPI or something. There's one of them that moves the window to a given monitor, right? And we had to determine which monitor we were on.
Well, that, or are you talking about the toggle to monitor? That's what I use, right?
Okay, one of those, right? So the point is, and this is easy to calculate. You get the window position, X, Y, width, and height, And this X and Y, you can also get the the X and Y coordinates of your monitors. And then you compare, you say, okay, is this X and Y within those? I will show you in a second what I mean by that. But now that I saved different positions into different INI files, then I just need different hotkeys. Like F3 would read the information from monitor 1, right? Sorry. So this would actually just read. And basically when you read them, oops, oh, that's annoying. Okay. X goes here, Y goes there, W goes here, H goes there. So I'm gonna read from the monitor 1 INI on the section my tool, the key X, and I'm gonna get that in here. And then I will just use the winMove command, winMove, right? And of course, the one that I'm trying to move is my tool. And I need the X, Y, width, and height. So X, Y, width, height, and then the title. That's it. That's all there is to it. And that's I'm doing with the monitor 1. But now I want to do it on the other monitor. Well, I will do F4, for example, to monitor 2 then. And that would do the X and Y coordinates. So let's take a look at it. And for me to test this, let's do it with VS Code so I can stop instead of just running the whole thing. So let me just open up VS Code here. And I will so we do have a window called my tool somewhere because we have it right here. So I want to know where it is located on my first monitor. And because I know that it's on the first monitor, I'm going to press F1. So I'm going to run the tool, stop right here, and I'm going to press F1. And this very quickly looped through all the window lists that all the handles, and it was ignoring a bunch of them. And now that it found the correct handle that has the title my tool, now it stopped right here. Now, once I find the window that I want to also break out of the loop. Remember that this is a loop, so I want to break out of the loop. So I'm just going to do the stuff and then just break. Okay, so now let's do that again. The window is right here. I press F1. This will capture the X and Y coordinates. And notice how the X location is at 2,716 right now, right? You will see in a second what that means. So that information, I'm going to save it into a file, and I'm going to break out of the loop. I did my job. When I press F1, I got the position, I saved it into a file. And right now, I should find on my desktop an INI file with monitor 1 with the X and Y coordinates saved. Easy. And we're going to do the same thing with F2. So I'm going to run the tool again. I'm going to place a stop here. And notice what I mean now. When I move this to my other monitor, the X and Y coordinates are going to be totally different. The X and Y numbers are going to be different. So when I do F1 now, sorry, no, not F1. I didn't want to do that. Hold on. Let me do this. Let me do it here. When I do F2 here, the X and Y now, you will see what happens. This is now at 4,271. All right. So that's one way for you to know in which monitor a window is located at, because my monitor 1 is never going to have a pixel 4,271 because it's going to end at certain location where the other monitor starts. Does that make sense? You will see that a little bit clearer later. But now I had two INI files, one with the location on monitor 1 and one in the location of monitor 2. Now, my other two hotkeys, F3 and F4, what they do is that they read the INI file and get the information out of the INI and then just move the window into that spot. So if I press F3, let me see what I get here. I have to do INI read. Hold on, let me see. Maybe I put the wrong things here. Let me see. So INI read, I need the, what is it? First, the file name. Yes, that's it. The section and the key. That's exactly correct. File name, section, key. Oh, hold on. What? No, I have to reload the script. F3 now. Okay. There it goes. So it moved the window. It disappeared from my monitor 2. And it put it right here. Okay, so let's do something also. Can we make it win show? The reason for that, or win activate. Moving it made it to stay behind the S code. And I want to activate it or show it. I think with win show, I can just do it without. Okay, so F3, what does it do? The target window was not found. Really? Huh. Let's see. Oh, it's with a space, by the way.
It
F3.
wasn't found because it's still on the other monitor.
No, it was because of the a space in there. It's not activating the window, so let's win activate instead of show. That should work. And now we're gonna do F3. There it is. Now, if I press F4, it should send it to the other monitor, and there it goes. So it goes to the other monitor, to the spot where I had it, and F3. So basically, we just saved those two spots. And because the X and Y coordinates and width and height are specific for each monitor, then you can go ahead and basically save the spots wherever you want it. You don't have to have different hotkeys. I just did it for, how do I say, for...
Yeah, for quick.
Yeah, because it's easy to explain. But if you have one function that toggles, you can toggle the monitor, you can toggle the position of the window in both spots. All right. So just to finish up, another thing that you can always do is the monitor get. Monitor get allows you to get the left, top, right, bottom numbers of a monitor, and you can loop. You can say, if you have 5 monitors, you can do a loop 5, and monitor get 1, monitor get 2, monitor get 3. Quick thing, the numbers here, the monitor number is not the same as the window one. So monitor 1 on AutoHotkey is probably the same one as the number 1 in Windows, but monitor 4 might not be the same one. Does that make sense? So don't think that the numbers in AutoHotkey are the same in Windows.
It does make sense. So when Windows puts the XY coordinates on monitors, does it start at the bottom left of monitor 1?
Well, on the left corner. So it's not even the bottom left. It's not like a corner here at the top. They will give you this on the, so the left corner here, the top in the center, the center in the right side as well. So it's the center point of the 4 spots is basically what's up. Let me show you.
So it goes from the center. So you can't have negative numbers in the coordinates.
It's a very weird thing to explain. Yes, you cannot have negative, but you can convert those to X and Y positions. And
Okay.
actually, you know what? If you want the actual X and Y coordinates, get the monitor get client. I think it is monitor get client area. Where's the, let me see, hold on. Monitor get work area. That's what you want. That would give you, well, again, that's giving you, let me try something out. Let me see what this is. And again, be very mindful. This is not X, Y with height. This is left, top, right, and bottom is what they are. And if I must message box that, so if I say this, for my first monitor, I get these numbers, all right? So these numbers, 0, 0, 0 to the left, 0 at the top, right? And then I have 3,840 pixels to the right. So when I'm calculating the X and Y position of my window, it will be within 0 and 3,840. Has to be within those two ranges. And if I'm calculating the Y location, it has to be within 0 and 2088. Hopefully that makes sense, right? You cannot have a number that is outside of those boundaries. Now, they can be negative. Let me show you. Because what happens is, let's say that I move my display here to the left, as I mentioned before. So I'm going to apply. What's going to happen now is that my position for this monitor is negative in relation to monitor 1. Monitor 1 is always 0, 0, always. Always 0 and always to the right, always. But if you have a monitor to the left of it, the coordinates for it are going to be negative. That's the part that you have to kind of like keep in mind.
The coordinates for monitor 1, do they start 0, 0 in the top left corner?
Well,
okay,
not top left corner, but yeah, the center left and center top. Yes. Basically, let me put it this way. Let me do this. So just, and this is very important because whenever you're calculating the pixels, that's going to come up and it's going to be a problem if you calculate it wrong. So those numbers that I just gave you, the ones from the work monitor, are the numbers in here. That's the 0 here. Then the 0 here. Okay, they're in the center. They're not top left corner. That's not how it's calculated. And then the right area is right here in the center of the right and here. So those are the numbers that you're getting. You're getting a 0 right here, 0 there, right? A 0 here. And then I got 3,000, what was it? Something, 3,800 here. That's the number. The 3,800 is right here in the center. It's not in a corner. So if you want to get a good position, X and Y coordinates is not what you're getting. All right. That's just telling you the boundaries, how far you can go right, how far you can go to the top, how far you can go to the bottom. It's not X, Y coordinates.
Okay.
Right?
So if
Now,
I position something at, let's say, I guess it would be 0 and 3,050, it would end up at the center right-hand side of the monitor.
That's right. But,
okay,
and that's the point, your X and Y coordinates, you just have to think about it this way. X, the only thing that I can put for X is left plus right, that number. So whatever it gives me for left plus whatever it gives me for right, that's what I can put on the X coordinates. I cannot put a number higher than that. If I do, or less than that, if I do, it will end up in a different monitor. That's what you have to think about. Right. Right now, if I do working area of the second monitor in my computer, you will notice that I get some weird numbers. You see that? So let me make that bigger. Look at that. So my left spot is minus 1080, and my top part is 235. The right area ends at 0. Remember that 0 starts for the other monitor. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So this is why these numbers, you cannot look at them as X and Y coordinates. They're the boundaries of where I can put my X location. So if I put my X location between minus 1080 and 0, it will end up on my second monitor. That's what it says. So
and the 235 is like that because your second monitor is a little bit lower in the display than your first monitor.
It's a little bit higher. It is a little bit higher, right? So it's a little bit higher to the top. And now here's the thing: if you when you look at it graphically in Windows, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Look. So this is 0 right here. This is 0. So if I move 1080 pixels to the left, which is to the left of the 0, it would be negative, right? But this monitor, even though it doesn't look like that, my monitor is actually higher. It is taller. I'm sorry, it is taller. So that's why it starts in a positive number, 200 and something. This was 0 here, but it is 200 down is where it starts. So that's why you have to be careful. These numbers that we're talking about are not X and Y coordinates. They are not meant for that. They're meant for boundaries. And the only thing that can tell you is when I give you X and Y coordinates, I can tell which monitor it is. If the X coordinate is in negative, I know that it's on my monitor number 2 if it's on the left, right? That's all there is to it. So for now, let's leave it at this point, and in which, hey, you can save the current locations of your windows. You don't have to loop through all of them. This example was for me to tell you, if you want to save 5 different windows, then just loop through them and match the titles. That's it, right? But if you just want to save the location of one of them, you don't have to do a loop. You just have an F1 that saves the location of that window, whatever the window title is. Does that make sense? It doesn't really matter. I just had a loop in case you need to do it for more than one window. All right. And once you save your information somewhere, it doesn't have to be different INI files. It could be exactly the same INI file in 2 different sections. My tool monitor 1, right? Monitor 1. And my tool monitor 2. It doesn't really matter. You just do it however you prefer, however you feel more comfortable with, but you can save and read. Win get position to get the current location and then save it, and win move to get the window back to the spot where you wanted it. So hopefully that makes sense and helps with different applications that you might have for this. It's not only for saving the position of a few windows, right? But hopefully you can use it for any other situation that you might have that is similar to that.
Yeah, I think that'll definitely get me started at the very least.
And
Awesome.
keep in mind, well, I linked to a video where Isaias and I talked about the XY coordinates of PDFs and how different they are. But during that conversation, because I think I either used AI or I Googled or whatever, we discussed a couple other approaches too, right? That just to make you understand there's different ways people assign locations to things in programming and in we had a little bit of the history of Cartesian. Was that one of them?
Yeah.
It was just a fun, interesting. It wasn't the best video in the world. I'll say that upright. But
and it's funny because when you think about it, like what we learn in school in math is the Cartesian method, which the 0, 0 is just the center point of the plane, right? But in computer science, it seems to be that for whatever reason, and we've used that for a little while, right? But then they started moving away from it, and especially once I understood, I think in that same video, Joe, you mentioned, it was because in PDF the starting point is at the bottom left corner, and I was like, what the hell? But then you realize when you were printing stuff,
Right.
the page came from the bottom, so that's where the location was, right? Right now, that's not as common. I don't know how common they are. I know that in AutoHotkey, 00 is the top left corner, right? Which I don't know why. It makes more sense to me. I don't know. It's just like, it makes sense.
Well, when you're reading left to right, I think, that for Westerners, that's how we
Yeah,
read.
you go
read left to right.
exactly. You go by rows, right?
In the drawing, right, of the dots when they're done, right, when they're pushed up,
Right.
they're pushed up, right. Ray asked about and this is where first off, Ray, I think definitely it's not the top left corner of a message box, but maybe the center of a message box might be something that you're, it's usually, I thought, in the center of the primary monitor, right? Is this?
And actually, let's do this. Let me just do this. This has been an exercise that I've done so many times. It's just, you can always set a timer.
Yeah.
Show, and then every 10 milliseconds. And what we're going to do is show a tooltip right here. That's the only thing we're going to do. We're going to get position, mouse get position, and we want the X coordinate and the Y coordinates. And then we're going to tooltip that. All right.
Yeah.
X.
And then you might build in a hotkey to, when you hit it, it will capture it,
right,
and save it for you, right?
Right, and then yeah, exactly. So if I hit a hotkey, it could save that location into a file or whatever. This I've done so many times. But you can see. Let me see if I could. Yeah, there we go. So if I move to oh right, you know what is happening. I think I know what it is. I have to make this screen location because. Remember that AutoHotkey defaults to the active window. So the X and Y coordinates inside an active window, the 00 would be the top corner of the active window. All right. And that's what is happening right here. And I think it's probably the client area is what it's doing. Right. So the client area without accounting for the caption is what's happening. Okay. Now in AutoHotkey, we could how can I stop? We need to have a hotkey to stop these scripts always. All right. So we can set the coordinate mode to mouse, then the screen. And now the coordinates are going to be independent of the active window. Now, when I go to the top left corner of my monitor, that's where 00 is. Now, if I keep going, and then this is the part, look how when I go to the center of this, I get a number there, 2095. That's what we're going to get for top. That's the top corner. 0 on the Y, 2069 on the center. That's where I would be able to do that. And if I keep going, the end of my monitor is 3,800 and something. Now, when I switch to my other monitor, this changes numbers. So that's a weird number, 5,000 something.
Yeah, we're not seeing it.
Right. So now let's modify that. Let's change the display settings and let me move this guy to the left now. When I'm going to apply that. All right. Now that's to the left. Now I cannot move my mouse to the right anymore. I cannot switch to my monitor because Windows doesn't think there's a monitor there. I would have to go to the left instead. And now when I go to the left, now notice how my numbers are in negative. -7, -800, -1,800 and something. You see? So that's how X and Y coordinates work, and they work on boundaries, and those monitors have boundaries set by the operating system. This window right here is what sets what the boundaries for your monitors are. And even though you don't know you're doing that, but basically what you're doing is changing what coordinate numbers each monitor will have in a very easy, pleasant way. It's easy to do this. Okay, I just switch it to this side, switch it to that one. I need it a little bit higher. Oh, I can do that. Just to emulate how my real monitors are in my computer right now.
How many people I've seen, Isaias, that have monitors that are a little shifted, but they don't line them up like you just did. And it's always frustrating to them. And I'm like, no, you don't have to make them perfect, right? You can offset them.
Right. You can just
so much easier.
Right. So basically, Ray, when we're talking about X and Y coordinates, one of the first questions you have to ask about is in relative to what? And in AutoHotkey, there are 3 ways that they're relative. They could be relative to the screen, the whole screen, right? So relative to the 0, 0 here, or relative to the active window, which could be, okay, if I activate this window, then 0, 0 will be here because that's the active window and that's relative to that. Or relative to the client area. The client area is the same as the window, but without the caption bar. So you see this yellow caption bar here? If I don't count that in, if I start here on the line that divides those two, if that is my 0, 0, then we're counting only the client area. And AutoHotkey defaults to the client area. Why? Because it's very unlikely that you want to automate something by clicking on the caption. And usually you don't have to automate the caption. If you need to close the window, you use Win Close. If you want to minimize it, you use Win Minimize. If you want to maximize it, you use Win Maximize. What you want to do is automate whatever is inside the client area most of the times, right? So that's why AutoHotkey defaults to that, but you can change it by using coordinate mode, and you can change the coordinate mode of the tooltip window. You can change the coordinate mode of the mouse, and there are other things that you can change for coordinate mode, right?
Yeah, but my question, okay, so in your INI file, you wrote X, Y, and what was it? The other two.
The width and height.
So that's 1 pixel. But then when you're moving the box is a whole box. And if you move that over, do you move the top left corner to that pixel, or do you move the top right corner?
Yes, it's the top left. No, the top left corner. So whenever we're talking about, and this is just to be very clear, this is in AutoHotkey, all right? That doesn't mean that in other programs might be the same, but in AutoHotkey, if I say Win Move, so let's say the part here, well, this part that says Win Move, X, Y with height, these X and Y coordinates are referring to the top left corner of the window. So if I say move the window to 0, 0, it's going to grab this window and put the top left corner exactly at 0, 0. That's what it's going to do. All right.
Okay.
And so if I say move it at 50, 50, it would move it 50, 50. 50 to the right and 50 down.
All right. So I have a question, Isaiah. If so my monitors are in a grid, it's 4 monitors, and they're all the same resolution. Could I have it grab the coordinates for the item on screen 1 and screen 3 being right above screen 1, just subtract the resolution, and it would end up in the exact same place, just on the other monitor? Okay, perfect. 100%. That's what I was wanting to figure out. So yeah, good deal.
Yeah. That's exactly right. So if I for my X position here, if I just add up the width of my monitor, right, knowing that to the right I have another monitor, then yes, the window will be moved that same amount to this side, and it's just gonna end up on my second monitor. Totally. And if you do the same, if you subtract to the in the Y direction, right? You subtract on the Y direction, it would go up. So if you have a monitor to the top, it would end up on that monitor.
Okay, now here's my next question. Can I tell it if the program is in this coordinate set, then do this action. But if it's not, don't. So if it's in the coordinate set for 1, those are the only windows it's going to get. And then I can have it do
Yes.
the math and move them all to
Yeah.
3. And then if it's in coordinate set for number 2, it'll only get those programs.
That
And then
is
move
that
on.
is exactly that is a good question. So that was what I was implying a few minutes ago. So what I would do is loop, and I would get monitor, get count. All right. And this tells me how many monitors I have in my PC. It would say 2 in my case. For each of those monitors, I can grab the information and save it somewhere. So let's have something like monitors. And I would have a map in here. And I would say monitor get work area of A index. Remember that we're looping here. So A index is going to have 1, 2, 3. How many monitors I have. And then I will have the, what is it? The X, the X now, the left, top, right, bottom, right? And once I capture that, I want to save it on the monitors that I just created. And I will put the A index as the key. So my monitor 1 is going to be 1. And I'm going to save it as an object instead, so I can access it with X and Y. Now, X and Y sounds okay right now. It's going to be X equals L. It's the same right now. But top is not what I want, and right is not what I want either. So I have to just convert this into stuff, and you can do it. So for Y, it's going to be top right now because it's going to be 0 for both, 0, 0. The width is going to be the left. So width is going to be L plus R. That's what the width is. And height is going to be top plus bottom. That's what the height is. And if I keep doing this for each monitor, I have my information already. I just want to loop this. So let me have a stop here. And I would have a monitor with 0, 0 is my X and Y coordinates, and the width is 3,840, 2,088 or height. It is exactly right. If I go ahead and look at my monitor, that is my 3,840 and 2,160. You see? So I got my information in there, even though you notice that there are some pixels missing. There are some pixels, because we're not counting the taskbar at the bottom. That is because I'm just getting the work area. So I'm not counting the taskbar at the bottom. That's why. Now, I do have my X and Y coordinates of where my Y would start, where my X would start for my other monitor. So if I want to know if a window is inside monitor 2, I just have to get the position, right? I just got the X and Y. And if X is more than monitors 2X, okay? And Y is more than monitors 2Y, then I know that I am on the monitor 2. That's it. Because you cannot have an X position smaller than the area of your monitor. Does that make sense? So that's how I would determine if my window, I just get the position of the window, and I know if it is inside monitor 2. If it isn't, then I know that it's in monitor 1, right? But if it is, I could say, okay, so we are, so this is in window is in monitor 2. So let's do this. Let's test this. Okay. So I'm not going to write, well, I can, it doesn't really matter. So let's do this. If I press F1, do we have the tool running? No. Okay. Oh, it deletes the stuff. Okay. Okay, and the title is My Tool. Okay. There it is. So if I press F1, okay, if I press F1, it got the position. X is not higher than the monitor 2. Let me see. Did I get the information here? Come on. Yeah. So monitor 2 has an X of 3,840. That's where my X coordinate starts. But I said that if my window is more than the start, then it is in monitor 2. So right now, it shouldn't say anything, right? So let's then have an else statement in monitor 1. So let's do this. Let's reload. F1 should get me that the window is in monitor 1. And it is true because I have it right here. Now, if I move my window over there, and I am kind of like not sharing that anymore. But if I move the window to my second monitor now, and I press F1 again, this will tell me that it is on monitor 2. Does that make sense? It's just the math of where my X and Y coordinates are. And it is just that it can only be in one monitor at a time. So the math can only be true on one of the monitors. So you will have to have a few if and else statements. I would definitely create a function that checks for all your 4 monitors. If X, so the function would be something like, you would have a loop that saves the monitors somewhere, and then you would have a function that says check monitor. So which monitor, and then you give it an X and Y coordinates, and it returns if the X that you gave it is more than, and you would do the same thing, and then you would say return 2, and this would return 1. And then you would do the same for as many monitors as you have. So you would say 3 or 4 in this case, and then 3 in here, right? So this would be 4, this would be 3. Basically, this is your function. You would give it an X and Y coordinate of a window. So you would get the position, get the position of my window, and then I will call which monitor, and I will pass it the X and Y coordinates, and this would return the window is in monitor number, and it would return which monitor it is on. In my case, I only have 2 monitors, so I cannot do 4 and 3, but in your case, it would be the same thing. It just does the same. So it is in monitor number 2, and if I move it to number 1, it would say it is in monitor number 1. That's a very simple function that you can create, and you would just have to check for each monitor independently until you reach, well, if it is not in 3, 4, and 2, well, it has to be in 1, so it returns 1.
Okay, my only other question is, how do I get it to find all the windows on monitor 1 instead of just my tool? So it'll do this for all the windows. So it's basically, it would get all the coordinates for windows that are on monitor 1, and then calculate
You would have
where
to, right, you would have to loop. So for each of the windows, as I did before, and if you want, you don't have to have this. So you go for each of the windows, get the position, and pass it through your in which monitor, which monitor, X and Y. So now, as we are looping, we get which monitor that particular window is at, and if the monitor is number 3, then we want to do some and the window title, get title of that window is whatever you want it to be, then do something, right? So you will have to loop. That's the first thing. You have to loop. So you get the winget list. This gets you the list of all the windows in your computer right now. This if statement is optional. This is the one that filters out which windows you're going to work on. If you don't want to filter, then you comment that out, right?
Okay, so I need to win get list, and then I need to loop through and determine which if it's on monitor 1, then move it to monitor 3. Okay.
Or exactly, and if it is the one that you want. Now, remember, I don't know, this seems to be a tool that might benefit from the group add. Remember that we have this group add, so you can add a list of window titles, especially if the titles don't change much. If it is a group of tools that you have, right? You can say my tools and then add VS code on it. So AHK EXE code. And then you can add more tools like Edge, EXE, and Chrome. And now you can refer to this name, my tools, as one big window title. So if you say, here, you get the list, get the location, and if that title is part of your group, then you move it.
It's like having an or, right?
Right.
Basically, just
because right now I have an and statement for one window, but if you have 5 different windows, now this becomes a little bit tricky because you have to say and or win get title, HWND equals another window, right? Code or something. So now you have a lot of or statements just to match the windows that you want, right? So I would definitely play a little bit. I would, first of all, search on the documentation for the group. That might help you a lot if you have multiple windows. This little function, I'm going to send it on the Telegram chat. It just tells you which monitor you're on. You need to get the monitor information, though. So basically, you have to have the monitor information somewhere, right? So this, I would do it static. And if monitors count, if it doesn't have a count, then I want to loop and get the information once, right? So this little monitor, this little function takes a X and Y and tells you in which monitor that X and Y is located at, right? And I could generalize this a little bit more just to make it so that I don't have to have a lot of if statements. But this is just a starting point, right? This gives you an example of saving the position of windows into a file. And it gives you a little bit more information about how you could do it from a list of windows, right? How to filter it out for something that you want and save it. And then how to use the information that you just saved and grab it out and move the window into that spot. That's the example. So I'm going to send this whole thing on
Telegram. All right, and we're over the hour, but I wanted to wrap up this topic with one last question. Isaiah, can you share your screen? Oh, hold on, Ray, and go back to where you were identifying the monitors and windows.
Yeah.
Because when I used to work in corporate America, I worked from a laptop a lot, and it was really annoying when I would dock and undock and have different, things. It would always get them wrong. What I was also wondering, I can't remember if I did this or not. I know you were moving to your monitor to around with your mouse, right? But my thought is, I wonder if we can programmatically set those.
I remember we talked about a tool that, so let me see if I understand. Like having a hotkey that moves the mouse to a given monitor?
No, 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 no.
Okay.
It would, like right now, let's say I want the two to the right, but let's say in a different config, I want a hotkey that would move the two over on the left side of your number one monitor.
Oh, that's a great question. No, I don't think
I
we
gotta think
can.
those are stored in the registry somewhere, right?
They are. I think they are. Yes, that's for sure.
So we could use like process monitor if we cared to probably
Right.
where that's getting written to, and then
To kind of like just flip them without having to come here.
because I was
Yeah, yeah,
thinking
yeah, definitely.
for Scott, I think you came up with a good solution, but we could have, flipped the monitor.
Yeah, flip the yes,
and
the
maybe that would
monitor.
have been another approach. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Ray, is your question on this topic or a different topic?
On this topic.
Okay.
I got confused. One part you said 0 was in the center, and then another part you said 0 was at the top left. Is it 0 is for Windows and in the center is for monitors?
No, no. In AutoHotkey, whenever we talk about 0, it's always the top left corner in AutoHotkey. Okay. And we were talking about other examples, but they were outside of AutoHotkey. But if you're working in AutoHotkey, always top left corner of either the window or the screen or the client area, always the top left corner is 0.
And where was it that 0 was in the center?
Well, the
No,
Windows.
that is in math. For example, when you were in school, right? In school, they were using the Cartesian plane.
I thought
And there
the
is
monitor,
0.
like your primary monitor, wasn't that on the center? It's on the far left middle though.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
but yeah, it is the left side of the monitor, not the middle of the screen. Okay.
Right.
That with the middle of the screen is not used
Right.
in programming for a long time anymore.
Oh, you were showing us the Cartesian.
I was just talking about it in general, but you don't have to worry about it. And anytime you're thinking about AutoHotkey width and height and X and Y coordinates, think of your top left corner as 0. That's where you start.
Okay, so forget about the 0 in the center.
Right. No, that you can forget about it. Yeah.
Okay. Forgotten.
Let's stop the recording here.
Get insider savings, 25% off courses, scripts, and done-for-you AHK jobs, making premium tools affordable and accessible. Tap into over 466 plus hours of AHK video gold, including fresh clips like this, for anytime learning that fits your schedule.